some notes on this episode, and also hair is very inconsistent. Now let me make something clear. We have notes to make sure that we're not incorrect on this. But if we are incorrect on this information, please put it in the, description below. We would like to try and get this semi-correct.
We would, or at least, well, we not semi-correct, at least.
What I mean by semi-correct is that we're not going to get everything correct. Like the last episode where we said Neo Geo was after this.
Anyway, so we're going to be having a brief discussion about the Sega Saturn.
Well, the history of it at this part of the show.
It's history. It started development in 1990. It was started development in 1993 under the codename Project Aurora. It was later released in Japan on November 22nd, 1994, and only to be released later in July and August, respectively, of 1995 in America and Europe.
Oh wow, this thing's as old as I am.
Yep.
We share a birthday. All right.
It's a little bit younger than you.
July 95?
Yeah, but I think the day is different. So I think it's. But anyway. So then, it's like the Saturn had a big Sega had a big rivalry with the upcoming PlayStation
and Nintendo 64
and Nintendo. So they decided they released a fake release date, only to release it months in advance in America.
Due to Sega.
Yeah, due to play
stuff.
Yeah, it's like no one was prepared for this, and it was only offered at select retail.
Which at the time it was called the Saturn Days, which probably is the reason why Sega didn't do so well, and it made them unreliable.
It made them unreliable and made them a lot of enemies with other retails who would end up either siding with Sony and or Nintendo later.
Or both.
Yeah. Also, they didn't have a very good public image because the Sega Saturn was released at $399.
Yeah, that's kind of bad.
In retaliation upon them releasing it early, Sony lowered the price of their PlayStation to $299, where Nintendo released their Nintendo 64 much later than the other two, released it at a much lower price.
Which we'll talk about later, because, once again, exact pricing we don't know.
Anyway, the Sega Saturn ran until it was discontinued in America and Japan. No, America and Europe. It was discontinued in the August of 1998 due to its decrease in popularity.
In Japan? In
Japan, it ran until it was discontinued. It was discontinued in 2000. It lasted much longer. And another problem with it is apparently it catered more to its Japanese players, where it released more RPGs and more JRPGs and other such things that were popular in Japan. In America, we didn't get a lot of the games.
Seems like we did get a lot of sports, though.
We got a lot of sports games and a lot of other titles, but we didn't get the main titles that made it popular, like Police Knots and other such games.
Which Police Knots could have changed a whole bunch of stuff.
It also...
Police Knots is very important in this time span.
Why so?
Hideo Kojima. That name will come up in the next episode.
Anyway, it's unfortunately, because the Sega Saturn was considered a commercial failure in America and Europe because very few people actually bought it. It actually cost. Hang on, let me pull up the exact number of how much it cost and the battery. Nope.
Battery's not dead. It's in the 90s.
It cost basically to market
it set them back, right?
It set them back a lot of money.
We're trying to make this accurate, so bear with us with the time. We'll try and remember this a lot more, but,
Okay. The Saturn's commercial, and this is from Wikipedia, so I quote, "The Saturn's commercial failure caused Sega to lose $267.9 million. That's how it cost them that much money, and apparently it cost them to lay off 30% of their workforce.
Which, once again, I believe might be cause of the downfall. Now, in my honest opinion, the Sega Saturn kind of might have marked the downfall for the other system. I can't say because there's only one after this.
Yeah, basically because of all the enemies they made with other retails, the huge prices, and the unreliability of the company.
And probably the laying off.
The laying off. And the lack of imported games all set up the Dreamcast for future failure. So that's pretty much the basic history of it. I mean, unless you'd like me to go more into stuff with Japan. After.
Now, we'll do that in the Japanese episodes. Remember, we got 2 versions of this coming out.
Alright.
The J versions and then the A versions.
Okay.
Or JU.
Okay.
JUA. Japan, America, Europe, Europe.
Europe's an E.
JUE. JUAE.
We'll figure it out later.
JEAW? I don't know.
Stop.
So, yeah. I'll take the time and talk about this now versus during while we talk about games. We finally got to answer a question, even though I did it in the video with typing.
Mm-hmm.
This thing did have memory, as we said before.
Yeah.
It does have internal memory, which is powered by a watch battery.
Pretty much.
No, let that sink in, because a watch battery only can support probably 3 or 4 games before it dies. And once the watch battery dies, your memory goes away. So you could have beaten a few games and then gone.
All because of a watch battery.
Now, there is other ways you can do it. I believe memory would go in. I believe there is another version of memory that you can put in here.
Also in the drive here, you could buy a memory card.
Another memory card, but that one won't always work because you need to swap it out for a game. Because some games took the disc and cartridge. So that's probably another problem why it didn't work so well, is because it did that, you know. Now I don't know if that's just for Japan, but I heard it did in America, and God, do you know how complicated that must be now to get?
Very hard. It must be very difficult.
Now we'll move on to the games in the same section because I really don't want to, have to cut just to show you the game cartridges. Not game cartridges, game discs. Now we're talking about the games because I had to cut due to unfortunate mistakes.
Anyway, the games we have... Sorry.
The games we have today that we're going to be talking about are Fighting Vipers, which is close to Virtual Fighter, so I'd have to say, good enough. What do you say?
It's good enough.
The next one is Daytona USA, which is the launch title of the series.
Mm-hmm.
And last but not least, Nights into Dreams. So let's show you the gameplay. So we'll be starting with the game Daytona USA.
Daytona USA is a racing game. It started out in the arcades, but then was transferred to the Sega Saturn later.
It was one of the launch titles that has multiple remakes of it, I believe.
Okay.
Remember, there's 2 versions of it.
Yeah. Daytona Racing has arcade mode and Saturn mode. The difference of which I'm not exactly sure.
Well, one's timed. That's why you let me speak.
Okay.
One is timed, and we're not going to do that for the short timing of filming this. So,
essentially, it was your basic racing game.
I wouldn't say that.
Nothing much you can do. You drive and you win. You try to win.
Yeah, but not all this is more of a rally racing game than a racing game. Because people categorize racing games to this day as, Burnout and stuff like that, where you're on roads.
Ah.
So, saying basic now is different than basic then.
Well, to me, it's basic. You go in laps, you beat other people, you win. You try to win.
And also, here's another thing that I also have to bring up about basic games that I dislike, and this is also true in my opinion. Music sucks. I don't know if you can hear it, and you probably won't be able to hear it, but I will try and play the music in this video at this portion, and it has some really good music.
Yeah, Daytona Racing has a really, really good music for a racing game. It's got a whole soundtrack just for the game,
Which is mostly for most of the Sega Saturn games.
Yeah.
Well, most of the straight-up Sega Saturn games.
For the Sega Saturn, if I must say so, the Sega Saturn version of the music is much better
than what we've heard of the arcade, at least. I mean, at least one song. Well, this version of the song is.
Yeah.
So.
Another thing about it is it's easy to see. It's quite brightly colored.
And I don't know if you can see that from camera, because, you know, camera distorts color.
I think all in all, it's a pretty tight game.
It's also a very good game, in my opinion, for racing, because it's not as hard as other racing games.
Yeah, it's pretty easy and pretty basic, so...
At least if you choose automatic. Also, I do like, if you guys have caught it multiple times, which some of you have, some of you might not, is that in the mountain, there's a Sonic. Literally. Like, Sonic's laying there.
On the mountain.
Inside the mountain. Like, he's, like, you know, carved in the mountain.
Which is pretty awesome.
Also, this has different views, which are these two views. This view, and then I hate this view, but you might be able to see Sonic a lot easier, so let's try it. Yep, there he is.
Also, right now, you can, also, there's a second lane for pit stops.
But I wouldn't recommend doing that right now.
Yeah.
Now, each race has different amounts of time. There's also different versions of it. Like, you know, there's hard, expert, that crap, even in the menu.
Each with different courses.
Not really different courses. I'm talking about, like, the actual level of being hard and easy. Like, you're able to race more racers in the, like, area.
Oh, okay.
It's hard to explain. I mean, we'll have to show it to you, which we'll try to.
What would you say about the difficulty curve?
There's not much if you got used to it. You know?
Uh-huh.
So. So yeah, you just saw us play through that.
You made it.
Good job! At least they didn't say that. You made it. Good job.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why we're mostly quiet through this is that guy's on the grass. Okay, the reason why we're not talking much is because it isn't really, I wouldn't say it's a basic racing game, because basic racing games are a lot more complicated with the gears and stuff.
Ah.
But I don't really have much to say, because it's just a racing game. It's an old racing game, an arcade racing game, so it's pretty much like that. It's not like Crazy Taxi kind of amazing.
First.
Gameover. Alright. What's our channel? CB? Okay, so CBG, right?
Yeah. You only have 3 seconds.
And here we go. I'll show you options. See, I was playing on very easy. Difficulty very easy. Trust me, you can change it to very hard. I normally try to play it on normal, but I want it to look really good. There's Grand Prix, and whatever that is.
Endurance.
Yeah, Endurance, which is crazy. Let's go to the next game, which is probably going to be Fighting Vipers, because both of us can play that.
Fighting Vipers.
Yeah, Fighting Vipers. I already said that. And you know what's funny about this game?
What?
You're gonna have to speak up.
Sorry.
Or you're gonna have to move, like, over here. This game is a normal fighting game. Like, one that kind of came at the time of Virtual Fighter, which I recommend getting, we just don't have.
Right.
This is an over-the-top, crazy kind of a game versus normal fighting games. Because, you know,
Yeah.
people are on roller skates, fighting with skateboards.
Fighting.
You know what, let's just show you how it is. How many rounds of versus mode should we do?
A couple to show you the different kinds of characters you got.
Okay, sure. We're not really trying to show characters, we're trying to show system.
Okay. Never mind then.
That just happens to show the gameplay and what it looks
Round
like.
1. Let the action begin. Go.
But as you see, this is just probably like a... It's a pretty normal fighting game. I mean, I can't really say much about it. It's just really... What would you say?
It's big, like you said, in an era of Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat,
Virtual Fighter.
Virtual Fighter,
And I believe Tekken.
and Tekken. This is a pretty base. This is again it's very similar to the rest of them.
But there's a few differences. For instance, the harder attacks.
You can do more more extreme things where you can interact with the environment. For example, knocking your opponents completely out of the arena.
Which I cannot do with this character.
You can knock their clothes off.
Armor.
Well, their armor.
Which I just did completely.
Yeah. You can.
You can keep talking. We got a whole time for this.
It's like you can do all. It's like yeah, you can beat it. It's like there's several different stages. Like there's a
Round
western
one.
stage,
Let the
a street
action
stage.
Sega stage.
Yep.
Go.
You can charge attacks, which is interesting. You can it's like and all of it has a much shorter time limit. Usually games will give you anywhere between 80 and 30 seconds. This one starts you off with almost 20.
Yeah. Now my biggest question I have to do with this game is, why is there a cage? No theories?
That I have no idea.
Also, when your armor is knocked off, I'd love to bring this up because this. Really? You're gonna show your cheapness on this? But
It was the only part of you that wasn't protected.
you hear that? But yeah. There's not much we can say about this game, and there's not much I can show you because, well, it's what it is. This is what you see is what you get at this point.
It's just your average fighting game.
Not for its time.
Okay, then explain what makes it so fantastic.
Armor! Street
Oh.
Fighter. If you played all the other fighting games, there's not really armor in those ones.
Right.
Plus, you really can't. Plus, this one's one of those things of even if like
Round
you
one.
can't really
Let
knock
the
them out of the
action
ring, you
begin.
know.
Yeah.
Go.
I mean, it takes more of a boxing. The characters have different styles, which is another thing that's a little interesting. Most of them in other games have more of a martial arts style.
Yeah.
These are kind of more of actual street fighting or boxing.
As you just seen, I knocked out of the ring. But yeah, these guys play cheap, and you know what? That pretty much makes this game.
Yep.
Two. Go.
Also, there's a block button. I'm not really the greatest at fighting games, but most of the games I play don't have a block button. I'm used to trying to press back to block. Also, this game also lacks a major announcer, you know?
Yeah. There's no one. There's only someone who would tell you what happened at the beginning of rounds and stuff.
That didn't look safe for YouTube.
Nope.
Alright, well, that's really all we can say about Fighting Vipers, because the next game we can talk way more about. At least she can, because she doesn't seem to want to talk about these.
I hate it when you call me out on this.
Well, it's true, though. I mean, there's not much to say, though. Except for each character is majorly different in fighting style. We would love to sit here and show you that, but that's what a review's for, and we're not really reviewing the game. Also, graphics are pretty good for this. Graphics were pretty good for both games, Daytona and, you know,
Yeah.
Fighting Vipers.
Yep.
Also, may I bring up, the last game of Daytona had some amazing music. This one is bland. I can't really remember it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good, but it's not like...
It's not like Street Fighter which had really good music.
Especially
or
since
even-
there are the themes that got stuck in your head during each level.
Yeah, or like with like other games. There were a lot of games with really good music for the Sega Saturn.
Yeah, there were. I wouldn't say that this is a bad game, but if you're looking for a fighting game, I wouldn't recommend this one as high as, because there was like there's like the X-Men fighting game, Marvel fighting games, and it's not because I love comic books, it's just because those games are fun, and they're pretty much like Marvel vs. Capcom, and I believe there even is a Marvel vs. Capcom game on here. So, like, if you're looking for a cheap fighting game, totally get Fighting Vipers, but, you know, couldn't recommend it like I recommend, you know, Daytona.
Right.
Ready to move on?
Yep.
Okay, let's do this. Okay. You know what's funny about the Sega Saturn?
Huh.
It feels like an arcade because it loads up, says Sega, and then moves on. Like, because I don't know if you were there, but I used to go to arcades in the morning, and they had like a nice startup screen.
Yeah.
Well, this is a game that Olivia will probably talk more about because she knows more about this one than the other games. Also, this game actually has a story. So,
I love games with story. Anyway, this is Nights into Dreams.
which we're still debating on what Nights is. Except for Sega that calls it an it. Can't we just call it a her?
Or he.
No, a her.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's a her.
I thought you thought it was a he.
That's what Wikipedia said.
Anyway, Nights into Dreams is one of the launch titles for.
I wouldn't say it's a launch title. It's not a launch title.
It's like, well, Nights has been one of Sega's little pet projects for a very long time on their consoles, appearing not only on the Sega Saturn, but also the Sega Dreamcast, and even making an appearance on the Wii later.
Now, bringing that up also is that Nights into Dreams has one of the greatest musics ever. Like, songs in this Sega Saturn area, in my opinion.
Yeah. The music for Nights is absolutely beautiful.
But, there's something I would also like to bring up here. Is, I know why you said launch title. And in technicalities, if we're going on accessories, it launched an accessory, which was a controller that we don't have at the moment, which was the 3D controller.
Oh, okay.
So this game came with it most of the time.
Right.
But we're not using 3D controllers. So we're going to have to pick up your controller because we're going to show something that people don't talk about much in the Nights games.
Right.
A 2-player mode.
Yeah, Nights had a story mode which you could either play as Clarice, a young girl, or Elliot, a young boy.
Which Elliot's is harder than Clarice's.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
I never noticed. Anyway, but
Well, let's talk about 2-player before we talk about first player.
Okay. In 2-player mode, you play as Nights or her... It's
said sibling.
evil counterpart sibling Riala. And you basically have a battle mode. And it's a battle mode where your goal is to try to, hit the other one 3
Not really
times.
even kill,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
circle them. Let's try and make this one short, because I don't want to have to,
Alright.
I feel like what is not really for a kid game, though.
What do you mean?
Ned's almost attempting to swear.
Oh.
Okay, Knights. Where are you?
I can't find you.
Let's stay still for a minute, jeez.
Oh, I found you. Found you. Ah,
If we wait a second, we'll be tied.
yeah. Also did the tricks.
Well, we're just gonna show you the tie, because, it's not gonna be that easy to do this. Let's just wait until it, ends. No
Right.
offense, there's not gonna be a winner, because I don't want to focus too long on this, because this can go on forever. It never ends. And that's probably why it's not talked about so much.
It's just a basic friendly competition. Well, not so much friendly, but
I was about to say, what are you talking about? You don't know friendly.
yeah, you're right.
Well,
But-
let's try and just get one level of Knights. I will give you warning, I suck at this game, even though I love it so.
Anyway, the music is beautiful, and it's like the colors.
Well, sorry, I'm going to cut you off because I don't want to focus too much on the game because that's the review.
Sorry.
But I would like to talk about how the game's graphics are versus, the stuff that makes it great.
Sorry.
The game itself. Because I know I was doing it, but that's just okay. They just pushed me off of a hill.
Jerks.
Alright, now I wanted to bring up that this game's graphical capacity is pretty good in my opinion.
Yeah, the graphics, the abilities of the Sega Saturn for this game are absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
It's also bright and colorful, and everything's actually very distinguishable. You
Oh,
can see
yeah.
leaves on the trees.
And the 3D isn't terrible either from some systems,
Yeah.
This game looks like they put a whole bunch of time, effort, and all that other jazz into this game.
Which is absolutely fantastic.
Bless you.
Thank you.
You can sneeze, it's normal.
Sorry.
People sneeze.
Everyone sneezes.
But yeah, this game pretty much takes the orbs to collect, you know what I mean? That's what you're watching us do.
Yep.
I don't think you want to watch us play Knights for the whole time, though, so...
Yeah.
Take over, Olivia.
Alright. So, basically, really, the fun thing is, and then the gameplay is actually really fun. It's a lot of aerial acrobatics and it's actually pretty easy to control. However, you do have a time limit, which is kind of unusual for games, for a lot of the Sega Saturn games, I think. Maybe, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that's unusual. You can use, ultimately a pretty fun game. And if it isn't, and since it isn't considered one of Sega's flagships, I would have thought it would have been. Just because of how much work went into it.
Well, I think we should end it here. Sega Saturn. I love this system. I really do. I really enjoy this system. It's one of, like, it's not my, like, top 10. It probably is on my top 10, actually, of systems, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I will say it's worth it, just you have to really hunt for the games. Because I know there's a lot of good games for the Sega Saturn. I just don't, you know.
They're just hard to find.
Yeah.
Because of this, I think because of the Saturn's commercial failures, it was dubbed, it's harder now to get your hands on the system or the game.
And people probably think, oh, since it was a failure, we can bump up the price. Also, I like to talk about this because this is a nuisance, in my opinion. And I say opinion, but it might not even be an opinion, it might just be a fact here. Is that it's annoying when you're trying to find a game and you go online, right? And you don't pay attention, and you buy a box.
Yes, unfortunately, a lot of people are just selling Sega Saturn game boxes. Just the boxes, not even the games.
Yeah, just the boxes.
We had that problem when we were looking for Nights into Dreams.
Yeah, more people wanted to sell the box than the actual game. Which makes me question, why are you selling the box? Like, does that mean you have the game? Or what happened to the game? Do you just not want to give up the game?
I don't, which doesn't make any sense to me because the game, almost anything you buy, if it has the box, it automatically is more valuable.
Yeah, so, yeah, why are you selling the box? Did your game break? What happened? And that's the biggest problem with the system. And it happens with a lot of systems too. Mostly Sega, actually. I've came across this with a lot of Sega games. And I guess it's because people are willing to buy it, or there's some stupid people out there. I don't know. It's a sick trick, and I just like it a lot. I don't think it's fair for people that are getting a system and going, maybe I should go to stores, you know?
Yeah. So sorry. No, it's definitely not very fair. It's definitely not very fair for people who are trying to find these games.
Especially since, oh, and you know what another dirty trick is?
What?
This one's less dirty. Selling the Japanese game in an American box.
That's always terrible because
it won't work.
Yeah, like most systems, Sega Saturn has a region lock.
Well, at least I believe it does. We haven't tried it here, but not really feeling like trying it.
Because the last time we tried to override a region lock, it was a lot of pain. And
so I'd rather just buy another system than have to go like, oh, do all that crap, you know. Mm-hmm. It's just easier because, you know, I like American games too.
Right.
And I don't want to try and make a disc, so.
It's like, so the thing is it's a good system.
But I wouldn't get it if you're new. I would only get it if you're into collecting. Like, I wouldn't get it if you're just like, oh, this, like, you know, I wouldn't get it because it's very expensive. I wouldn't get it on a whim, you know what I mean? Like, there's some people that think they're going to collect. You have to be really knowing you're going to try and collect systems.
Yeah. It's because it's one of those...
Or you have to have nostalgia for it.
Yeah, because it's a pretty unusual system to get your hands on now. Why, I don't know for certain.
I wouldn't say that, just not a lot of people talk about it.
Yeah, it's pretty underground, I guess.
Obscure, more or less, than underground.
Same diff, but... It's a pretty... So, all in all...
It's a good system, but versus the other systems, I can see why no one got this. The asking price, in my opinion, is too high. And to this day, it's...
Still too high.
I wouldn't say that.
I mean, unless you get lucky.
We got ours for $39.99, so...
That
not even $39.99, it was $39.95.
Something like that.
So...
Which was pretty good. So you might want to try to find it through a local retailer as opposed to going online for it.
But then again, local retro game stores might overprice them.
True.
So, and I'm not saying that all of them will. I'm just saying that these things, also, even if you could find them, you might as well buy them then if you're going to try it. Because we've had that time where we could have bought one, didn't, and well, yeah.
So,
There's not really much I can say more about the system. I mean, it's not that bad.
yeah.
Oh, these are also music discs.
That is an interesting feature about the Sega Saturn is if you put in a disc and you don't click on it right away.
Oh no, I'm talking about in general. You can put this in a CD player.
Really?
Yeah?
And you'll just listen to the soundtrack?
Yeah.
Cool. So,
Yeah, that's all we can really say. It's not like the PlayStation or Nintendo 64 that has nostalgia for us, and I feel very sad that we can't talk more about this thing.
right. So, that about wraps things up for the Sega Saturn.
Well, we'll see you guys in, we're gonna have a break, so give it a month. A month for Sega. I feel like we're gonna need a month for Sega. Not Sega, Sony. We're gonna need a while for Sony, because let's be real here, that's going to be probably about a 2-parter episode, because this one's already 20 minutes, and Sony
takes a long time.
we're not just talking about Sony, we're talking about the other game, we're talking about the businesses that marked with Sony, like Square, Konami, stuff like that. We're not just talking about Sony, we're talking about all the stuff that came with it. Same thing with Nintendo 64. So these ones are going to take a little bit longer because we're going to be talking more about them.
Alright.
So,
We'll see you guys soon.
and there'll be an update soon on this channel.
Alright. Until next time.
Bye!
Bye.